Hello and welcome to the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. My name is Anders Bergström, and I'm working as policy area coordinator for policy area education in this strategy. In some minutes, I will introduce to you the macro-regional strategies, this relatively new concept of collaboration in Europe, and I will focus on why do we need these macro-regional strategies, what are they about, and how does it work in practice. So once again, welcome to this short introduction, EUSBSR in a nutshell. To start with, our Europe is in a time of transition. We see a lot of changing going on. The challenges are more and more complex, and it's more difficult to handle them and to solve them by a single act or a single project. We really need to work together. Another feature of today is that we need more of long-term collaboration. All of us that have been working with projects, we know that it's usually just 2-3 years. And with this complex societal challenges, we need much more time. And we need to work with many more stakeholders. Another feature is moving targets and goals. There is a dynamic that calls for agility. Suddenly we get a pandemic, the COVID-19, and we really need to change our way of working. And this is an example, but there are many more connected to climate change or immigration, etc. We need to engage stakeholders to be able to effectively address the challenges. And the question is very much who can contribute and who can bring about change. It's not enough that the public sector are working with these issues. We need to engage civil society and the private sector as well. Participation is a democratic value. To be able to participate is something that more and more people would like to do, and it's their right to be able to be offered this opportunity. Co-creative action formats. Well, in order to work together with multiple stakeholders, cross-sectorial, cross-borders, we need to also develop new formats, collaborative platforms where we can be learning in actions, more of networks. And this is really a laboratory for a new collaboration in Europe that now is shaped. Action-informed policy creation. This is very important to make sure that when we are developing new policies in, for example, a platform in the Baltic Sea region, this can be transferred to the member states on the different levels, depending on what issue it is. If it's a measure on how to prevent early school leaving, it should be directed to municipalities. Or if it's a policy brief on how to work with the integration of migrants, maybe it's on the national level. So these kind of policy loops become very important. And then facilitation of multi-party initiatives is a must competence. It's something new, a new profession, you can say, that is developing in Europe to be able to hold the space, to be able to create this kind of environments for co-creation. And what's coming out is policy gets enacted. There is a need for more targeted solutions, and one answer to reach them is using macro-regional strategies as a new concept for collaboration. So you can say that macro-regional strategies co-create solutions and implement actions to respond to the challenges we face in today's Europe. Collaboration is vital for creating more targeted solutions, as I said. This is actually the key to success. We can't sit in our own municipality, region, country and just try to invent, often also the wheel once again, instead of using the opportunity that we are members in a European Union where we together can more effectively address our challenges. We have done some conferences over the years, and this is a little bit what you can see from a cloud when we are working together with stakeholders in the macro regions. So societal challenges with the macro regional added value is the key to start working with the macro regional strategies. We need to define the added value. Certainly we shouldn't work with issues that are better to solve on a local level or regional or national level. We should work on these complex societal challenges. And that is why there is an action plan that is developed and adopted for the macro regional strategies. An action plan that is guiding the investments, the priorities, and the processes. And there are targets and indicators that are that the strategies are delivering upon, and these action plans are also well connected to other different strategies in Europe. For example, European Green Deal or the European Pillar on Social Rights. So they are not independently living in their own bubble. They are well connected to the other strategies in Europe, also on national, regional, and local levels. Macro-regional strategies are open and agile frameworks for long-term strategic collaboration. This to be open is very important. This is a difference from the projects that have their partnerships. These processes, these platforms for collaboration are open for members, basically. You say that you sign up as a member, but it's no membership fee. It's more that you commit yourself to be working together on a specific issue. So here you can see around the wheels that these macro-regional strategies are working. The cross-sectorial, the multi-level, and the collaboration and co-creation. What is the unique value of the strategies? Well, this is that they are working cross-sectorial, multi-levels, and transnational, that it is a system where there are aligned funding, where there are actions on the ground, certainly also projects, that is leading to policy impact, policy changes, and this is the policy loop that we are talking about in these strategies. Let's have a look at the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region and focus on how it is actually implemented. We have a new action plan that is now in place from 2021. There are 14 policy areas that are covering more or less the whole spectra of different policies that have a macro-regional added value. The overall objectives are save the sea, connect the region, and increase prosperity. And here you can see also that there is a cobweb in between, because these are not silos. They are working close together, these policy areas, and a lot of societal challenges are cross policy areas. So how are we doing this in practice? How do we implement? We say that we are working long term, we are mixing funding, etc. Well, we have developed a format we call flagship. And flagship is a process that pursues an agreed policy impact in response to complex macro-regional challenges. You can explain it that it's a thematic policy action process, bringing together a large group of multi-level stakeholders, different projects and policy-making processes, and engage stakeholders from various levels and sectors. A single project, or what usually was named the flagship project, is rarely enough to achieve the thematic objectives of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. So that's why we also needed to develop our own format that is different from the programs that are working with projects. The strategy are working with policy action processes, flagships. And the flagship is built on three pillars, key pillars: processes, that is a long-term processes, but still with targets and indicators; stakeholders, broad engagement; and deliverables. They are designed to deliver policy impact. As you know, the projects usually talk about that there will be dissemination afterwards and striving to develop the policy impact. Here, the policy impact is inbuilt from start because of the stakeholders that are involved and of the planning of such flagships to deliver on the targets and indicators in the action plan of the Baltic Sea strategy. Project is very important, and this is why, as we all know, the funding is channeled through projects. But the flagships, they are like homes or containers for these projects. There are project platforms that we know about, there are project clusters, and all these different forms of projects are put together in flagships. And they are mixed with different forms of policy work, from open policy dialogues to policy writing workshops. There are many stakeholders that don't want to go into projects. Some can't because of the co-funding, for example, civil society organization, but also business or ministries. Others are also not interested to be part in a project. So these stakeholders are very much interested to be part of these flagships, the processes. So working in flagships clearly sets out the macro regional strategies apart from the EU programs. We shouldn't mix them. They are different. They have different objectives. It is exactly there where the synergy between the EUSBSR and the EU program lie, because we are depending on each other. Programs with their projects and the strategies with their long-term perspectives and engaging many stakeholders and are delivering the policy impact. So flagships is a reply to the action and the challenge in the action plan. Flagships is coordinated by a flagship leader, often an institution. So you can say that those that are coordinating these policy areas, the so-called policy area coordinators, their instrument, how they work, is with flagships. They plan these long-term processes, and then there is an appointed flagship leader and institution that is thematically coordinating the flagship over time, and stakeholders become members. So flagships deliver on the targets and indicators presented in the action plan. This is how the action plan looks in a more schematic way. You see that there is a thematic area, one of the 14. There are 3 actions usually in the action plan, and each action have a set of targets and indicators. And there is one flagship process foreseen in each action. There can be also more. And each flagship has a network, as I said, members that are members in the flagship. And then under these, you see how the single projects are implemented, how the activities are implemented. Some parts of projects, some not part of projects. This is a picture of the policy loop, how it is working between the 8 member states, but also certainly our neighbors, Russia, Norway, Iceland, and to some extent also Belarus that are participating. And how they are feeding in with experiences, good practices into the thematic work done in the flagship. And then from the flagship is developing policy briefs, policy recommendation, measures on the ground that flows into the member states again. So the modus operandi is a flagship. And I will give you one example from policy area education, my own policy area. And this is School to Work. It's a flagship that have existed since 2014. And it is a flagship leader, Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Regions. And they have two platforms in this flagship, one on early school leaving and one on the group of not in employment, education or training. I mean, long-term unemployed young people in the age of 20 to 30. And in each of the platform, they have a monitoring evaluation unit, action research, monitoring what's happening on the ground, feeding in with the good practices for the member states to the processes going on in these platforms. There is also peer learning offered, study visits where you can meet colleagues in other countries to discuss with them. And then it's the thematic working groups. I will come back to them. And then the projects. So you can say that the thematic working groups are like the engine, the production units in the flagships. And the new role is to be a flagship leader, the coordinator of this long-term process. This is how it can look like in a thematic working group, where you see that stakeholders are gathered around the table from public authority, civil society, research, business, depending on the thematic that they are discussing. They are coming from different countries. And you have a process facilitator, expert that is expert on organizing this multi-stakeholder dialogues, where they are developing new methods or measures and policy briefs and propose new structures. And you also see to the right the research officer that is feeding in with these good practices, inputs to the discussions. The people that are sitting around the table are financing their participation themselves. They can do it with help of a project in their member state, but they can also do it directly financed by the authority organization they are representing. They are there because they see the added value of working together. You can say this is a Baltic Sea office where you are gathering people working with similar challenges and with different perspectives. And this is something that is a growing interest for. It's not difficult to recruit stakeholders that want to be part of this, because it is a need in today's Europe to work closer together on the challenges at hand. If you look at the funding, you have the flagship, you have the thematic platforms. Many of the flagships, or more and more of the flagships, I would say, are using the mainstream programs. They are building together clusters of national and regional projects, binding them together with a transnational cooperation agreement. We hope that in the future there will be an increasing use of the mainstream programs, also with the help of the new regulations for the new program. They also use sector programs. For this particular flagship, School to Work, certainly Erasmus Plus is very much relevant, but it depends on the policy area that you are working with. And then Interreg is really a very important funding tool. Certainly the transnational program, but also the cross-border programs or E&I programs as well, because we are working for the whole macro region. The flagships are covering the whole macro region, but still stakeholders are coming from the different regions that are covered by the cross-border programs. So it can be so that one or more of the cross-border program can contribute to a flagship, and we have very many good examples of that. These are some examples of flagships. Mentioning policy area education first, with the School to Work that you heard about. The Baltic Sea Labour Forum have a platform on sustainable working life. Baltic Science Network, coordinated by the Hamburg Ministry for Science, Research and Equality. We have other areas, policy area innovation. They have one flagship on real-time economy coordinated by Estonian Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communication, and they have one in the pipeline on BSR-S3 ecosystem. And then you have policy area transport, working with the flagship linking sea and land that is coordinated by Swedish Maritime Administration. These are some examples of flagships, and there are more in preparation in the shipyard, you can say. So what to conclude, what's the benefit with these flagships compared with projects? Well, all types of stakeholders, multi-level governance in practice, civil society can participate. So this is an important feature. Incompatibilities between the EU members and neighbors matters less. That's also very important, that everyone come with their own funding to the table, so to speak. There are no limited in time, because if you're working with early school leaving or integration of migrants, etc., you can't say that we have solved this in 3 years. We work long-term with these issues, and the projects are coming and going, supporting it, but the processes, the flagships are up and sailing for a long time, as long as it's needed. And it's real alignment of funding. The funding is mixed in these flagships. As you can see, mainstream programs, Interreg, sector programs, own funding, etc. Real alignment of policies is also an advantage. They deliver on different levels. They can deliver on the EU level, they deliver on the national level, on the regional level, on the local level. It can change how you work in private sector, can change how civil society is acting. So it delivers on different levels. That is also very important. And finally, collaboration capacity of all involved grows through learning in action. We are making better use of our membership in the European Union, working together, addressing the societal challenges together, also our opportunities together, to get the more targeted solutions and to build a better Europe together. And in the end, we get a larger impact on the challenges when we do so. Thank you so much for your attention, and you are most welcome to join us working with the macro region strategies. Thank you.